Welcome. Welcome to you. I see a number of new faces in the room, so a big welcome. I'm glad you made it here. And yeah, just have a couple of quick announcements. We have 2 retreats coming up. The first one begins Friday. Actually, the energies of the retreat have already begun to descend into the Sangha. So I do hope you can join us for that. We'll start Friday morning here in the US. And so it's May 31st through June 2nd, 2024. I hope you can join. And our next in-person retreat is July 14th through the 19th at the Kripalu Yoga Center in Massachusetts. Okay. And then for those who are new to the group, I'll offer a teaching, and then that'll be for the next half hour or so with a meditation. And then we'll do sharing for a half hour after that. And then we'll do questions 1 hour from now. Okay. So a very common experience, a very common question that I get is when, I begin to challenge people to open up and to trust in this Kundalini energy. And, many people, when they're waking up, they come up with this little bit of resistance. Sometimes it's a massive resistance. And it says something like this. I'll be working with someone and they'll say, Craig, I have this feeling if I open, I will be overwhelmed. If I open, I'll be overwhelmed. And it's a very innocent fear within our egoic nature and our egoic identity. Our ego does not want to be overwhelmed. In fact, we need to maintain some sense of me-ness, like a sense of individuality, a sense of egoic strength that this is who I am. Those other people are my brothers and sisters, and that's my mom and my dad and whoever, and that's my my teacher. Like, let's say we're little kids at school, and it's good for the psyche to develop, to be able to individuate in a healthy way without being overwhelmed. If we're overwhelmed too much, that can lead to some psychological disorders. We don't need to go into that too much, but the big one would be like schizophrenia. If we're overwhelmed too much, our psyche can split, and that can cause us trouble. We spoke about this last week as well. But on the path of awakening, like the word awakening, the word enlightenment, is another word for the ego being completely and totally overwhelmed. Completely and totally overwhelmed. And so I'm going to invite us all to get comfortable with this idea of the ego being overwhelmed in a good way, in a healthy way. And so we're not being overwhelmed by something that is crushing us. We're being overwhelmed by the grace of God, by the intelligence of the universe giving birth in you and as you. And again, some of you may say, well, I don't want that. I don't want that. And that's okay. We can say that. That's our ego saying, I don't want that. The problem is, if you're in this group, then it's probably already happening. Like this experience of overwhelm, this experience of awakening. It's already happening. And so at some point we have to choose to say yes to being overwhelmed. But of course, we're saying yes to something great, something wondrous, something blissful. Like this fellow right here has been overwhelmed by Shakti. And it didn't kill me. It didn't destroy me. It destroyed my fear. But it didn't destroy what I am. And so it's this wonderful paradox, this really delicious and exquisite paradox of, can we say yes to something that feels overwhelming and come to know that this is the greatest experience of our life if we allow it. If we fight with it, it can be an absolute nightmare. If we try to fight with God, we try to fight with this explosive energy of awakening. It can be very, very difficult. And for you to try to resist the intelligence, the movement of the divine. And so I'm going to invite us all just right now to close our eyes and to smile and to soften a little bit at our human self. For us just to begin to breathe and to feel and to notice, to find the places inside that have feared being overwhelmed. And in the place of fear, I'm going to invite us just to begin to breathe more deeply, inviting a quiet sense, a gentle sense of trust. Trust in God. Trust in the divine. Trust in an intelligence that's far greater than our own mind. And so we're just going to breathe deeply and fully into the belly, into the nervous system. And we begin to scan the body and just noticing the places that resist. And so, of course, everyone in the space of their thinking mind will have some level, maybe subtle, maybe very overt level of resistance in the mind. And we're just going to invite you now just to breathe a sense of spaciousness into the mind. Letting go of any sense, any thought that I need to control. So we can soften and smile a little bit there. And feeling into the throat chakra, softening and opening more fully in the jaw. The jaw is to be one of the great places where we control, where we clench, where we grip. So softening in the jaw, the teeth, the back of the skull. Softening behind the heart. Just breathing in and breathing out, letting go behind the heart and in the ribs, the solar plexus. And again, just really asking, am I resisting? Am I controlling? Is there any part of me that fears the movement of this great energy? And if so, can I relax? Can I soften? Can I melt? Melting the space of the mind, melting in the throat chakra, melting in the heart, melting in the solar plexus, inviting the breath to deepen and feeling down into the space of the hara. And just noticing, like right there, the lower abdomen. Can you notice a gripping there? Anywhere where we grip or where we contract. These are forms of resistance. And I invite everyone to find this one major point of resistance in the body, whether that's the mind, the throat, the heart, solar plexus, the hara. And let's just take a moment just breathing here. Each breath softening, inviting a gentle and tender opening. Softening and a letting go. And for some of you, you're meditating in the space of the head, the space of the mind. I'm going to invite you to fall down into the heart, into the belly, in your consciousness, the seat of awareness, to be in the heart, to be in the belly. Even meditating from a point of authority in the mind. It's a subtle form of control. Breathing and feeling down into the abdomen. And opening here. Softening here. Trusting here. Even feeling down a little more fully. To the pelvis, the pelvic floor. And opening here. Opening here. And inviting this Kundalini Shakti to begin to flow up from the earth, up from the ground, each and every breath. Each and every breath. Just breathing, feeling, softening. And welcoming this movement of energy. And as you begin to feel this energy flowing up from this earth, this Kundalini Shakti, again, it might feel overwhelming. I'm going to invite you to consciously choose to receive this energy, receiving this light, this love, this movement of Shakti up through the root, through the hara, breathing, feeling. softening, opening. Yes, letting this energy flow. Letting it flow. And through the root, through the hara, the solar plexus, the heart. And inviting this Kundalini Shakti to overwhelm your emotional center with love, with light, with peace, with bliss, with freedom, an expanding nature. And continuing to breathe, inviting this energy to flood the chest, fill the entirety of the torso, to the throat, pouring into the space of the third eye, flooding out the top of the head, smiling as you allow yourself to receive, as you allow yourself to choose to be overwhelmed by this light, to choose to let this light, this Shakti, this grace flow through you. Choose to let go of control. So we breathe, we feel, we soften. And again, welcoming this energy to clear out any blockages, clear out any stuck karma, to clear out any resistance within us. Welcoming this overwhelming Shakti as it flows, overwhelms the root, overwhelms the hara, filling the root, the hara with light, overwhelming our egoic defenses, and leaving us full of light, full of love, full of peace, absolutely surrendered. The root, the hara, inviting your consciousness to expand, to merge into the ground of being. As this Kundalini Shakti continues to flow up the spine, overwhelming the solar plexus. As we breathe, as we feel, as we soften, fully letting go. Noticing first three chakra centers, the legs and the feet, fully radiating with light. So any sense of having a flesh body, a human body, your sense is being overwhelmed with light, overwhelmed with love. We continue to open any sense of having an emotional nature in the heart is overwhelmed with light, with bliss, with oneness, with unification, letting it flow, letting the human emotional heart be overwhelmed with love. Again, overwhelming the throat chakra with love, with light, with bliss, expanse of freedom. The whole body lit up with Kundalini Shakti. Below the feet, up through the torso, through the space of the mind, the entire mind. All this human egoic walls are blown down, knocked down. Opening, opening, opening. Opening out the crown, merging into heaven. Opening out the root, merging into the earth. This massive stream of light, of love, bringing harmony and balance. Restoring a sense of empowerment and autonomy to your spiritual nature. Dismantling any egoic resistance. As we breathe, as we feel. Surrender and open. Being the light. Being this love. Being one unified field of luminosity. Breathing, feeling, softening. Surrendering into the recognition that you are the light. You are the love. You are this great luminosity. And so we'll take a couple more deep breaths. And when you're ready, just gently opening your eyes. And so on this path, it's so utterly crucial that you become quite comfortable, quite proficient, is a word I'll use, with being overwhelmed. With being overwhelmed. With being overwhelmed. But again, we're being overwhelmed by the glory of God in us and as us, the glory of light, of truth, of compassion. The truth of what you are is what we're being overwhelmed with. And so in one sense, it's just a remembering of, oh yes, I am the light. I am this love. From an egoic perspective, for most of us, it can be like going pale in the face and being white knuckled and feeling like we're being drowned in some great force. I received a couple emails this week, about demonic possession. And, so we have these stories in our culture, and we have stories in our ego, and even safety switches in our ego that says, I don't want to be overwhelmed, by the lunacy, or let's say, or the alcoholism of our father or mother if we're a little child. I don't want to be overwhelmed by the power of my older brother. And so I need to fight. I need to resist anything greater than me. And that's a healthy thing for a developing ego. But for all of us, who've made it, made it into adulthood, we don't need to hold on to those control switches anymore. It's okay to open and receive this greater light, to become this greater light. And demons aren't here waiting to possess us. But the divine is waiting. The divine is waiting, saying, hey, will you open and let me have my way with you? And the great non-dual paradox is when you do open to the divine and you fully let the divine have her way with you, you come to recognize and experience, oh, I am the divine. I am the divine. And this is a very beautiful thing. A very beautiful thing. Now, if anyone here has, a history of mental illness, well, then it's like, okay, we have to be careful sometimes when we're opening in big ways to Kundalini Shakti. Because sometimes, a common thing, if we have an ego that's been kind of beat up by life or really traumatized, sometimes there'll be aspects of that traumatized ego that will co-opt the awakening, and things can get a little messy or nutty. This is where people think they're the Messiah, or you see like cult leaders, they kind of narcissists fall into those traps. But for most of us here, if we go slow and steady, if we trust and we open, if we're doing good work, with a good, healthy teacher and a healthy Sangha, then this awakening process can feel really big, really overwhelming, really confusing and messy, but ultimately it's a good thing. My process was very overwhelming, very messy, but I had a good teacher, good Sangha, good support. I had a good, healthy mind, or I wasn't going to, go crazy, through this process. But sometimes our ego has great fears. And for most of us, we don't have to fear. For very few of us, it might be good just to have some precautions and make sure you're working with a teacher and having good people around you. But for most of us, we can trust, we can open, we can have faith, we can let go and let God. And for too many of us, we're just scared. And that's all it is just scared of something bigger. And if it's something bigger, good, it's something that's bigger and it's good, let's not be scared. If it's something bigger and it's bad, if we're being invaded by a foreign enemy, yeah, be worried, be fearful. But when it's the grace of Shakti, the grace of divinity, let us trust. Let us trust.